the other side of that equation, they enjoy the pain. They don't just not have feelings for others. They hate life. And they hate innocence. And they revel in horrifying people. They revel in terrorizing women and children. They get off on just horrible abominations. And it's up to us that can recognize good from evil to protect the general public who is sheep-like and has been basically brought up in a coma-like state watching television in this culture of death, who have no idea what's happening to them. It's up to us to not be angry at them and be cynical and call them stupid sheeple and stuff like I've done 1,000 times. It's really up to us to reach out to them and realize how sad they are. But the unbelievable evil of injecting children worldwide with live cancer viruses, HIV, hepatitis, polio. It was in the news again. Just yesterday we covered it. Killing kids in secret illegal vaccine trials. I mean, knowing that Gardasil kills people and doesn't even protect them from human papillomavirus, knowing it consciously, just to see them, knowing that Ritalin causes deformities, shrinkage in the brain, all sorts of health problems, heart expansion, to know that what Prozac is so deadly, to know it's a toxic psychotropic and they're pushing it on kids, to just know that they're doing this. It's not a question of if, but when we stand up to these people. Now, again, I wasn't going to talk about this, but now I obviously had to talk about the rib cage thing because it's too obvious. But I'm going to stay on air today, and I'm going to stay on air tomorrow because this pain is not that bad. And if my grandmother could walk around with something 10 times, 20 times more painful, then I can certainly do a radio show with this. So I'm not going to wimp out. I'm going to be here. Okay, enough about that. The news coming up. All right, we've got Dr. Paul Craig Roberts joining us coming up to talk about the incredible escalations towards open war with Iran and what that'll lead to. The unprecedented power grabs. Even mainline analysts on, quote, mainline television are saying it's an unprecedented power grab. Court fight over recess appointments almost certain. Obama to violate a federal law and the Constitution to do this. Huge power grab. And he violates congressional laws the Democrats, by the way, rammed through more than a decade ago. On top of it, we've got incredible economic news on the job front. And coming up in the next segment, I want to illustrate that we can fight back against the National Defense Authorization Act. There's a reason Obama first said he would not sign it, that he would veto it. That way people thought, oh, well, it's not going to pass. We don't have to fight it. Then he could also then quietly sign it, try to confuse people, and then not have a political fight over it. They don't want to have a debate about, oh, you can secretly arrest us. You're doing what Hitler did. I mean, this really illustrates everything we've warned, that they've gotten rid of posse comitatus, that they're going to have military on the streets. So when we come back, I'm going to air this special report. And before I get to that report, when we come out of the next segment, I'm going to break down this big report that's also up at the Drudge Report, but it's also obviously at Infowars.com because it's our story. DHS officers armed with semi-automatics set up unannounced ID checkpoint in Florida. Papers, please, with submachine guns. And there it's happening everywhere with local police under their command. I mean, this is off the charts unconstitutional. Remember 2 years ago in Florida, the governor said, stop doing this. Families would pull up to the Army, state police, dragging them out of cars, whole highway shut down. And Homeland Security said, John Warner Defense Authorization Act. We can take you out of office, Governor. We'll do what we want. I mean, this is total federal takeover. And people say, well, the feds can do that. Oh, really? The feds are run by foreign banks. You understand? We've been taken over. We are an occupied nation. But here it is. DHS officers armed with semi-automatic set up unannounced ID checkpoint in Leesburg, Florida. Here's another one. Big Brother malls trigger privacy fight after installing equipment to spy on shoppers via their mobiles. This is already in place. You know, it's come out in mainstream news a decade ago that most malls have almost subliminal level audio under the mall music saying, buy, happiness, you'll be happy when you buy. I mean, it just, we're under mind control. Just become aware of it. And then it's still hard to fight. But if you are naive and just say, no, nothing's happening, everything's fine, why do you think they want tyranny right now? Because this is a global financial implosion by design. This is being done by design. Now, of course, the biggest news of the day I'm going to get into right now and more with Dr. Paul Craig Roberts when he joins us coming up. Oil prices move steadily upward as EU prepares Iran embargo. And Iran says they will take that as an act of war. Half their gasoline, 51%, is imported. They got plenty of oil, but not the refineries that are always getting blown up by al-Qaeda terrorists who work for, guess who, on record, the criminals that run our country. You're like, al-Qaeda works for people that run our government on record? That's one thing really freaking out the neocons when their callers call in and go, why is our government putting al-Qaeda in charge of Libya? They go, that's because Obama's a secret Muslim. Oh, yes, he's a secret Muslim. And I'm an Easter bunny. He's a CIA globalist. They use the Muslim extremist to overthrow countries. By the way, it's in the news that Hosni Mubarak is facing the death penalty. And globalists back to judges. That there's a worse tyranny in charge there now. And Mubarak wouldn't follow every order to get behind World War III and attack Iran. He wouldn't get behind that. So guess what? They're now going to have a kangaroo trial and execute their old minion. There's no honor amongst thieves, my friends. So top news here, U.S. troops going to Israel. The Jerusalem Post is not calling it an exercise, but a deployment ahead of possible war with Iran. Continuing, the war on Iran, the deployment of thousands of U.S. troops to Israel, the integration of U.S.-Israel command structures ahead of a joint strike. Saudi's Gulf states on war alert for early U.S.-Iran clash. Debka file, that's Israeli Intel Connect. Continuing. Libyan leader warns of civil war after Tripoli gun battles. Exactly what the globalists wanted. They want to wreck society. U.S. commander visits Israel to finalize missile drill. Jerusalem Post, it's on. It's on. And the TSA's coming with machine guns to street corners near you. See the general system preparing to go into collapse. See the generals gathered in their masses, just like witches at black masses.
Just like witches at black masses.
It is a sacrifice. It is a religion.
Evil minds that plot destruction.
They are sorcerers of death's construction.
Sorcerer of death's construction.
They are the individuals that worship the power of evil.
In the fields of bodies burning.
As the global preemptive war machine keeps turning. And how do the globalists invade and attack nations? They finance radicals to then have a pretext to later destroy them. And I told you 8-9 months ago when this whole war against Libya began that they would put al-Qaeda in charge and then later have a civil war and use that as a pretext to bring in more NATO forces and fully occupy the nation permanently as a African base to invade all of Africa. How did I know that? Because that was public Pentagon plans, and we covered it in the Obama Deception, now out for a little over 3 years. People watch Obama Deception and they say, was this just made? Because this has been out since March, early March of 2009. How did you do this? Because the globalists operate in the open. They have the disinformation they give the general public, just like they would say 15 years ago the NSA didn't exist. They would say that on the news, and that they would have national media attack myself and others if you talked about Echelon and spying on citizens. And when they were ready, they said, yeah, it's been around for 30 years. We spy on everything you do. Remember smart meters 5 years ago in California? People were saying, hey, These smart meters can control how hot our house is, how cold it is. You can track us. You can get data out of our house. You can tell what we're doing. Oh, shut up, conspiracy theorists. We never do that. Now they openly admit it once it's deployed. And this will destroy our entire future. This will destroy people that serve the military, police, bureaucrats. All of you have to decide what side you're on. And they're now announcing TSA is setting up more and more checkpoints across the United States. And we're going to break that down after this piece. Here is my report on the NDAA. It is not too late to turn it around. You cannot legalize tyranny. They may say this is a law, but it's a fraud. Here it is.
Under the provisions, would it be possible that an American citizen then could be declared an enemy combatant and sent to Guantanamo Bay and detained indefinitely?
They said it couldn't happen here.
The administration asked us to remove the language which says that U.S. citizens and lawful residents would not be subject to this section.
There would never be troops on the streets of America. There would always be due process.
And when they say, I want my lawyer, you tell them, shut up.
Your time is
Get a
expired.
lawyer. You're an enemy combatant.
It was the conspiracy theorists that warned that there was a plan to overthrow our republic and use the military against the people, that FEMA camps had been built, that citizens could be secretly arrested and disappeared.
I want that person to be terrified about what's going to happen to them in American custody.
And now NDAA 2012 is law. It did happen here.
Please know what will come your way. Death, detention, prosecution.
It's illegitimate. It's a fraud. It's tyranny in your face. The only question is, will the people of the United States let this tyranny now be put into action? It's one thing to pass an unconstitutional law. It's another thing to actually implement it. The globalists have bitten off more than they can chew. The Republic is rising, and the spirit of 1776 flies proudly on our banners. It's time for everybody out there watching to have a gut check and to decide, what side are you on? Do you stand with our constitutional republic, or do you stand with the corrupt politicians that have been bought and sold 100 times by offshore megabanks that are conquering this country through fraud? The reason the National Defense Authorization Act was rammed through Congress, and the reason President Obama treacherously and traitorously signed it, is because the power structure, the ruling class, is scared of the people. They know that we're waking up to the private Federal Reserve banking cartel. They know that we're waking up to secret arrest and torture. They know that we know that offshore banks have taken over this country through fraud and signed us on to over $1,000 trillion of fraudulent garbage derivatives paper. They know the Ponzi scheme is coming down, and so they rammed through the NDAA. And Obama said that he was going to veto it so that he wouldn't take the political pressure. Then he signed it in the final hours of 2011 when he thought everybody wasn't paying attention and was partying on New Year's Eve. And he did that because crimes are committed in the dark. They don't want their open tyranny to be a wake-up call to people. They want to silently have our republic go into that long night. They want to stab this country in the back when nobody's watching. There's a problem. I'm watching. Ron Paul's watching. You're watching. And we're involved. And like Paul Revere before us, we are warning people worldwide. Just look at the NDAA and its passage. All the lies. Oh, at first it didn't affect citizens. Now they admit it does. A global declaration of war against all countries. Congress handing that power to the president, making him a dictator. Secret arrest of citizens. Torture. Indefinite detention. Then the senators came out who authored it and said, you bet it affects citizens. We want you to be scared. And they went further and said, don't criticize us. Obama demanded this be in the legislation. The ACLU and others went to Obama and said, did you really do this? And they said, yes. That's how bad this deception has gotten, where they want to have their tyrannical cake and eat it too. But why are they hiding the fact that it affects citizens. Why are they hiding the fact that Obama signed it? Because they want to do their crimes secretly, because they know what they're doing is wrong. And they want to now implement